So there we were, at a table saw, cutting wood, and Dad being Dad, there was no safety guard, and no precautions to keep whoever was cutting safe. That's Dad for you. I turned around and I saw him. He stumbled in the woodshed and he's holding his hand. Of course, there's blood flying off of it. 9-year-old me naturally screamed, "Dad!" He had cut 10 tendons and 10 nerves in all 5 of his fingers. He did the exact same accident with me 5 years later on my right hand. No guard, obviously. The exact same accident I had with the exact same saw and the exact same blade. What a coincidence.
Ended up with bloody hands. So that was not fun. Thankfully, though, I did end up, because after praying, when I was reliving all of the pain, horrible pain, man, that was not fun. I did pray for healing. And was healed of all of that.
All right, so part 8.
So yeah, physical labor, unsafe working environments, and neglect.
Masochism.
A result of Dad's masochism. So I don't really know how to classify all the labor practices that we did. I don't know if it goes under unfair labor laws. I have spent some time researching, trying to figure this out. And it's just...
We kind of just recently connected the dots, but this is something that all of your siblings have talked about for years and been known for years.
Yes.
And sticks with everyone.
Yes.
So much
and
so
this
even...
wasn't even in the original
even
outline.
During your dad's funeral, they said he got back at them with this one last time from beyond the grave. That's the way they described it, at least.
Yeah, that's true. So I think because the line is blurred with parents and children, the law is a little bit, because, okay, I want to preface this by saying that I am in favor of hard work.
And having your children work and teaching them.
And having your children work and teaching them, good ethics. And I think hard work is good for you. I think it develops great character and great skills. And ultimately,
children should do chores around the house because they live there too, and it's their house too.
Oh, yes. And I think in part that was what my parents were aiming for, was instilling character.
But as you'll see, it went way beyond.
They went way beyond, and they crossed a line.
Whereas if you guys were employees, which you kind of were, it would have been illegal what they were having you do.
Yes, for sure. So I'm just going to go over, to preface this, before I get into the specifics, or maybe I should get into the specifics. I don't know. What do you think? Should I describe what neglect is first, and then go into the specifics, or go into
Probably
the
describe what
specifics?
neglect is first, and then you go into the specifics to show how it matches the definition.
Okay, because I had that, and also the definition of masochism, which I think I will...
We can just do a quick overview of what your parents did. Basically, they farmed you out as slave labor, basically.
Well, yeah, so Dad had...
You were forced to work for not just your parents, but other people without pay, and you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So, to me, that sounds like slavery.
And actually, this is actually something that's common with other families, too, who were in our circles. This is not isolated to my family.
And you guys earned money for the family that your parents used, but you didn't get any of that money.
See, that's where the line is blurred according to the law, because the law states that if it's earned for the family, it could be argued that it's going towards taking care of the children, too. So that's where the line is a little bit blurred.
You were like adults or older teenagers, right? Or no? Like the money for your music?
Oh, yeah, we were older.
What did that money go towards?
Gas money? Okay. Eventually, we were able to split it up amongst ourselves.
The bigger thing was you had no say in the matter.
Yeah, you didn't get a choice. That's the bigger issue. And that is, you didn't get a choice, and there were no safety.
Are you going into
there was no safety.
They allowed you to be exploited by Chris?
Yes.
The Weaver? And she's still exploiting the Long family to this day. And since I met your family, I've been pleading with your parents to don't have your children work for her because she's exploiting your kids and
now, I looked
getting
it
them
up
to work for you below minimum wage.
Okay, but according to Indiana law, she is still within the law.
Okay.
Technically. Because she put some parameters for the things that I did. And I was like, why did she do this? And then when I read the laws concerning...
Still exploitative. I still think.
employing minors, because I was a minor,
Mm-hmm.
she still abided by the law technically. I don't know financially if she did, like the way she paid me, because that didn't seem
You're
right.
making like $2 an hour.
It was less than $2.
Less than $2 an hour.
It was like, yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the narrative.
Okay, so this is taken from the Indiana Code, the definition of neglect by the state of Indiana. So a person may be charged with neglect of a dependent in Indiana for the following acts: placing the dependent in a situation that endangers their life or health, abandoning or cruelly confining the dependent, depriving the dependent of necessary support, or depriving the dependent of education as required by law. In more serious situations of neglect, the charge may even be classified as a level 3 felony. This can occur when neglect not stemming from education results in serious bodily injury. Several of us were very seriously injured.
Because you were working with tools that children should not be working with. In fact, one of these stories was even shared at your dad's funeral.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we wanted to change the voice and play the clip, because I was going to include
it's
that.
out there in public.
It is out there publicly. It's on YouTube, so it doesn't matter. So any bodily injury, under Indiana Code, serious bodily injury means any bodily injury that creates a substantial risk of death or that causes serious permanent disfigurement, unconsciousness, extreme pain, permanent or protracted loss or impairment of the function of a bodily member or organ, or the loss of a fetus. So that's the definition of neglect. Now, I kind of detailed in was it the previous episode, or I was in the one where Mom would leave us out in the middle of the woods. That is abandoning us. Mm-hmm. We were abandoned. Like, we had no way to get anywhere, no way to contact anyone. Like, I guess we could have called someone.
You didn't know when she was coming back.
No idea. So that right there is the definition of neglect. Part of it. And then we were placed in a lot of situations that endangered our life and our health. Like, so many. It's ridiculous.
Did you share the story about your one sibling who had the likely concussion and got no medical treatment, and the personality changed from there on forward?
I was going to include that in medical neglect, but yeah, that's part of, that is part of neglect. Mm-hmm. The 2-year-old fell, hit his head on concrete, and was showing severe signs of a concussion, talking out of their head, seeing things
that weren't there,
throwing up, and they were never taken to hospital.
And they were never the same after that.
Their personality completely changed. They went from being a calm toddler to just out of control constantly, just a wrecking ball. They had a very specific nickname, which I can't say. But
I guess they're fine because they lived, but I don't know. Maybe we should at least gotten looked at. I don't know.
But it could have resulted in death, though, because concussions that severe can result in brain swelling to the point that they die.
A 2-year-old hitting their head on the concrete and clearly having, I'd be very concerned.
Nope. I just drove home. We were in a different state. In the state of Tennessee when that happened. And then we were trying to get home. This was in 2007. So anyway, I included the definition of masochism as well, because I believe this is what caused the severe physical labor practices that my dad had us do. Because if you love yourself, like the Bible says, it says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And there's also this verse, and I think it's Ephesians, where it's like, no man doesn't love himself and doesn't take care of his body. So you love your body, you love your wife the same way you love your body. My mom would quote that
so many times. I've heard
so many times and jokingly say, well, Terry must not love me because he doesn't take care of his body. My dad hated that story. Ugh.
She told it so many times.
I heard
it myself.
He hated, like, he would just grimace and he would just get this dark look on his face. He did not like that because...
But it was kind of true.
It was true. And that's why he didn't like it, because it was true. It was true. And I believe, like, it took me some time to figure out, again, the definitions. Definitions are important. They're powerful. And actually, in reading through this, I was like, oh yeah, I've dealt with masochism myself and did not know it.
So what is masochism?
So awarenesscenter.com says, do you find yourself being incredibly hard on yourself? Do you secretly want revenge on people who have slighted you, but you hold on to resentment instead of doing anything about it? Or do you work relentlessly to the point of exhaustion? These behaviors are typical masochistic traits within the personality. And by masochist, we're not talking about the sexual sadomasochism where one is dominant, the other is submissive. This is a different... Like, if you look at masochism, as the first one that comes up is like sexually gratified by being, you know, harmed by other people or causing harm. It's like, no, I don't think it had anything to do with that. But I do know that my dad severely hated himself. He had a hatred for himself. And that's a lot of where this stems from.
Which is really sad.
It is so sad. And we tried so hard to help him to renew his mind and to get him out of that mindset. But if you... So yeah, from a psychological perspective, the self-defeating behaviors that a masochist endures are often done by the self to the self. So in other words, masochists inflict pain and humiliation on themselves because it ultimately stems from the belief that I deserve this and I don't deserve anything better than this, which is obviously a lie. But if you're going to believe that, then you're going to treat yourself that way. And as a result, us children were treated in that way too. There was no respect for our physical well-being. There was no respect for for human life. Like, I have had many conversations with different siblings who have all agreed that human life was not valued. That's kind of a serious thing because we were pro-life, but if you're going to be pro-life, you need to be pro-life not just about babies, but also about the children who exist in your own home. Like, you seriously have to be pro-life all across the board. You can't just be, we want babies to live. Like, that's obviously, I am not discounting that or diminishing that in any way. It's just, there was it was like we brought the babies in, and then once they weren't babies anymore, it was like, you didn't have value. It was almost like you didn't have value anymore. Like, weirdly. Like, we would get super excited about pregnancies and we would squeal and scream about finding out people were pregnant that we really didn't interact with. It was just like, I don't know. It was a weird experience. We're like, I don't know why that was so exciting to us.
Caspian's crying. Oh.
If that wasn't as clear, describing the brief definition of masochism, that's going through the list of masochistic personality traits. So you work to the point of exhaustion just to meet your targets. This is abusive to the self as you push yourself to your limits and beyond. You feel humiliated inside. You are the same as everyone else, remember, but you take extra steps never to show others how you really feel. You feel unloved in the world. You always had to work that extra bit harder to be accepted by those around you, and that was never enough. Your inner critic attacks everything you do, pushing you to further extremes to prove your worth. Your body may be solid, symbolizing your defenses to the abuse or intrusiveness you experienced in childhood. You find it impossible to say no or to assert yourself. You instead try to please, but are shaking with resentment inside. You complain about your lot in life, but never do anything about it, even refusing attempts to help you. You may be attracted to abusive relationships where you continue to be humiliated and shamed. Enduring this pain and not showing that it hurts is the masochist's way of maintaining some sense of pride in the self. And then lastly, you feel trapped in endless cycles of self-defeat. It's impossible to enjoy pleasure without guilt or shame accompanying it, and you feel hopeless about the future. I've had enough conversations with my dad to know that he had every single one of these, including being in a relationship where you continue to be humiliated and shamed.
Oh, yes. She constantly humiliated him.
His first relationship, when he was 18 years old, he got married when he was 18 years old, and she... Hey, no touching.
No touchy.
No touching. No. Don't touch, please.
Should we flick him? Should we slap him like your mom did? Yeah, is that funny?
No, it's not necessary. You stopped. You know the word no. So he was very hard on himself, constantly criticizing himself. And it was...
So it's really sad because it stopped him from intervening for his children.
Yes.
Because I did that one video to him pleading with him to do something and protect his daughters, and all he could do was internalize it and I'm such a bad dad.
Yeah, there was no taking action.
Who cares if you're a bad dad? Do something.
Yeah, Yeah, that was the whole point of it. It wasn't for you to just,
Wallow.
continually, it wasn't for wallowing purposes, but that is all he ever did. If he received any kind of criticism, and to some extent, like I said, I resonate with some of the stuff. Like, I can honestly say I'm less of this now, but I have.
So how is it different than just someone
with
who's ambitious?
It's your I think it has more to do with your motivation. Why are you doing it?
Is it because you feel guilty or you need to earn something?
Yes. Because and that's what it stems from. It usually stems
versus just
from
you're excited and passionate and driven.
Yeah, if you're excited and you're ambitious and you're working long hours into the night because you love it. I mean, we're recording this at 12:41 in the morning.
Well, that's just because it's the only time we can do it.
Right, but sacrifice. Some people would say like. Okay, for example, when I would work,
because I would say I'm a pretty ambitious person and I work a lot, but
yes, but you're not doing it because you hate yourself and you're trying to prove a point.
No,
you value yourself. So yeah, I think Satan is going to use anything he can to poison the efforts of any hardworking man, because I think that's probably why there are more men who are tempted by masochism. That isn't to say that females can't deal with it, because I'm serious. I would say it used to be hard for me to say no and to assert myself. Not now, but it used to be. So it's like, I used to have this too, but I think the problem lies is when this becomes such a problem for yourself that you subject other people to it. And that's what happened with us.
Right.
Because there was no sympathy given for the fact that we're children and we're doing labor. Okay?
Very hard manual labor.
So I compiled a list.
Backbreaking work.
Just beyond backbreaking. Oh. As I said before, I wasn't planning to include this in the original outline, but then in the middle of recording videos, along the timeline of us releasing stuff, I began experiencing the physical pain of all of the physical labor that I had done. And then
it was really painful.
Oh
really
my, bad. I was sick. I was sick for days. Like,
and some of your other siblings have experienced the same thing.
Yes, they have. And another sibling was experiencing it at the exact same time. And I was experiencing it. I was like, okay, I have this pain here. What could that have been from? And then something would come to mind. And I was like, oh, yeah. And it was just, I began remembering all of the different things, like stuff I'd completely forgotten about. And so I was like, I think I have to include this because it is coming up as a trauma, especially because these were jobs that we were doing as children.
Like what ages?
Little children. Okay, 8-year-olds, right? Wow. 8-year-olds doing some of these jobs.
So what were the jobs? So,
I mean, this goes back to early 2000s. One of the this isn't that bad. This is just like something I remembered. But I remembered scraping the paint off the walls in the bathroom, and it was really tedious. We had to use little metal scrapers and go along and take the paint and the
as an 8-year-old
wallpaper. I was 6 or 7. Then, but we were all helping to remodel the home to get it ready to sell. I mean that's like so minor, but that's just something I remembered as. And again, I don't think it's wrong to include your kids on remodeling projects. I don't think it's wrong, but I've also carried drywall. All right, I'm talking large sheets. All right, 8 by 10.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, we had regular chores, which were nothing, like just like house cleaning. But I remember like my dad having me do projects, but I was like in my later teens, and it was like teaching me how to do stuff, like replace a toilet and stuff like that. Nothing. Yeah, it was nothing traumatic for me. I was like, I didn't like it. It was like boring and stuff. But I wasn't a child either. I was like older.
I don't want to sound super sexist, but I also feel like boys are built more to handle physical labor than females are.
Oh yeah, that's true.
To some extent.
That's the other weird thing, how much like they were all into gender roles, and yet they had the women doing really hard backbreaking like male labor.
Like
men
I'm
should be
telling
doing.
We were carrying loads of 2x4s, I don't remember how long these were. I just remember doing this in 2007, and I would have been 12 at the time.
Were there any
11 or 12.
other siblings doing it?
Oh yeah, we were all involved.
So were there younger siblings than you doing it?
Yes.
So younger than 12.
Yes. When we remodeled the upstairs, and also when we were working on, we redid the living room. Let's see. I think we took out the drywall then. And we had to put, We put drywall up in the living room because there was originally just, like this paneling, which was really ugly. So huge pieces of drywall that were helping to carry. And then we would also help unload semis. I'm talking a semi full of wood and building materials.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So sometimes
because your dad worked at a lumber yard.
Yeah, he worked at a lumber yard, and so they would throw away things, and then we would get this stuff. And sometimes he had a little forklift that he would use to. And
he had a license to drive that truck, right? He had a special.
Yes,
license.
CDL license.
So it was like, yeah, there's a legit.
It was a legit semi. It was it was a legitimate semi, and we got to ride around in it a little bit and honk the horn, and that was fun. But there was also just. We were like, oh, Dad's bringing home a semi. Ugh. I don't think it was always completely full. It was just long, like we're talking feet of, there's so much trim.
And your children carrying heavy objects.
And expected to do this. Another thing was that, so we had a lot of land, and at different points, sometimes we had a riding mower. Not always, and there towards the end, when I was living there, we just had push mowers. And so we were push mowing acres, entire acres
probably
of property.
How much did you actually mow? It was probably 3 to 5 acres?
3 to 5 acres, yeah. And one time I did it myself because no one was cooperating, and so I was like, fine, I'll just do it myself. Again, that comes back to I was demonstrating masochistic tendencies because that's what I saw exhibited.
And so that took a toll on your body, I'm guessing.
It took a toll on the body. Another thing we did was we hauled slabs of rocks and gravel from the creek. Now, that was acres away. Okay, so we're crossing acres of land to load up buckets of gravel, put in the back of a pickup truck, and then we're unloading.
This is before or after the sewage drained into the creek?
I don't...
There's also farm runoff in that creek, too. So heavy metals.
It was before.
So you were going to the creek hauling stuff that while sewage was draining into that creek?
Yes, because we remodeled we built the herb garden for a sibling's wedding, which was in that, and that took place in 2006. And the septic system didn't get put in until I think either 2007 or 2008.
So what did you haul the gravel and rocks for?
It was for an herb garden.
Just for an herb garden.
So we helped build up a rock wall.
Okay.
Rock paths.
Again, how old were you?
10? 9 or 10? I was, and there were younger siblings who were expected to do it, who were like 7 or 8.
That's crazy.
6. Like, if you didn't help, you got in trouble.
And again, taken by itself, maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Taken by itself, it's not that big a deal, but it was...
Including all the other stuff that we've already covered in the other lessons, or the other, not lessons, but other episodes. I mean, even the one story of your one sibling getting severely beaten, basically child battery, was because that sibling didn't clean out your dad's car thoroughly enough.
Yes.
And it was your dad's car. It was his own mess. And he was getting, how old was that?
8.
An 8-year-old to clean up his own mess. I understand, if it's the family vehicle, right, getting the kids to help. I mean, never definitely beating your child for not doing it good enough. But when it's your own personal car and it's your own mess, I wouldn't get a child to clean up my mess. If it was a shared space, maybe.
No, it was his work. It was his work vehicle. It was his vehicle. He drove to and from work. It wasn't the family. It wasn't the 15-passenger van that we drove.
That's just an example.
It was his work vehicle.
And then there's tons more that you can get to.
So so then the other thing, so there were those jobs, and then my dad lost his job in 2009. The company he worked for went under. And actually, it might have been the end of 2008, beginning of 2009 is when he lost his job. So it was the recession. That was when everyone was losing their jobs and stuff. So I don't know the full story because I was young at the time. So I was like 13. So, and mom was pregnant with another baby. And so they were freaking out because, this is baby number 9 and husband doesn't have a job anymore. So what's he going to do? So they did get government assistance, but then under the table, he also did construction jobs for other people, got paid in cash. They didn't have to report it. So they were able to get, that money plus the government assistance. And it was all hush hush. We were told to never talk about it because that's breaking the law. Because he was making enough that if it had been reported, he wouldn't have been able to get the government assistance.
Which, that's a difficult situation because probably the government assistance with that big of a family wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So you need more money. But if you report it, then you lose the government assistance, and you still don't have enough. So that's a tough situation. So I'm not.
Yeah, I don't. It was just. Yeah. It was just. Yeah, we were told to keep it a secret because Dad could go to jail if. So.
That would be what, welfare fraud or something.
But the more criminal act was the fact that he took his daughters on these construction jobs. We weren't paid for it, and we often were in working conditions where it was dangerous. It wasn't a safe environment. There were tools. There were things out that could cut you, maim you. We were using nail guns. Okay, I'm talking an air compressor powered tool. Okay, something you could shoot someone with and cause some major damage. Okay, those are the kinds of tools that we were working with. And then also we did grouting jobs. So there's laying tile. When you have tile, you have to put like a certain layer of glue, and then you space it out. And if you've ever seen tile in a bathroom, you see the stuff that's in between. That's called the grout. So that's a very specific process. And my dad would put in the grout, but he needed someone to, because when you lay the grout, it gets on the tile. So you have to wipe it off before it dries, because otherwise it's stuck. Yeah. It gets stuck to the tile. So he would take one or two of us, usually two of us, to trade off, because we were handling these very large sponges. Okay, they were about this big.
Wow, those are big sponges.
They were very giant sponges. And this grout is basically like grit, all right? It's like sand.
Very abrasive.
Very abrasive. We were supposed to have had gloves. However, the gloves that my dad provided us were way too big because we had very tiny hands. Children. I was 14 at the time.
Okay, a little bit older.
I was a little bit older then.
But you had some younger siblings helping out.
I think there was a 12-year-old that went, maybe one. Oh, wait, no. There was a 10-year-old that went. Yeah, because they had nice, strong hands. So we would...
It's also the one that was forced to give foot massages to your dad.
Yeah. So the effect of not wearing gloves was basically you were getting extra exfoliation. And we did this for hours.
So your hands were rubbed raw by the end?
Our hands were severely chapped to the point that they would be bleeding by the next day, because you would really feel it the next day after it had time. And oftentimes we were, the one specific working condition I remember, there were no walls on the home. It wasn't even finished.
Wow.
There was no bathroom. So we had to go pee in a 5-gallon bucket, on some random construction site. I think there might have been there was a porta potty, but Dad said not to use it because it was way beyond his vision and he wasn't comfortable with us not. So we're teenage daughters. We're teenage girls using a 5-gallon bucket.
No privacy.
With no privacy. Out in the open. I think we were the only ones there. It was at night.
That doesn't sound very modest.
No, it was at night and we were the only ones there. That's how he got away with bringing children onto a work site because I don't think that's...
So it was a legit construction site.
Yes, it was a legitimate construction site.
So he's
yes.
So he's basically getting paid as a contractor.
Yes.
But under the table.
Yes.
Kind of like illegal immigrants do. And
kind of, yeah, I guess.
But he couldn't do it all himself, or he's trying to do it faster, so he has...
No, he couldn't do it all himself.
So he's getting his
daughters.
His young children to help out. Not super young, but middle
We weren't
aged
super
children,
young, but he did bring younger. I mean, he brought a 10-year-old on the job, and I don't remember if he brought anyone younger than that. I don't remember. I just remember being a regular part of the team because I did such a good job. So
you weren't given a choice? Were you given a choice in them?
Not really.
Could you say no?
No.
What happened? What would have happened if you said no?
I don't think I ever found out. At that point, I had been so conditioned to
you guys were so
we were so there was a conditioning and you were groomed and conditioned that you couldn't resist.
You had no choice.
You had no choice. You had to go. If they said you had to go because it came down to the obedience factor.
Children obey your parents.
Yes, even though I was 14, and I think as a 14-year-old, I should have been able to say no.
Right, because if you're going by the Bible, at 14, you're basically an adult, and those. Not time period.
So this was the middle of the night. It was very cold. It was the middle of winter when we're doing this. And at best, so I just remember having my hands in this whole ice cold bucket of water, wringing these sponges out. And it's hard, okay?
For hours?
Hours.
Jeez.
For hours. And
like a regular 8-hour workday, or do you not remember?
I don't remember. I do not remember. I know we did we helped grout Michael Johnson's basement.
Pastor Michael
Johnson, we helped. We did the same job.
So he witnessed this and didn't have an issue with it?
No. We also did it on a military Camp Atterbury. We grouted the bathroom tiles of the barracks.
Was there other people there that saw you doing that, or was that, again, another cover of night?
This was after church, so the entire family was there, but there really wasn't. It was in a construction part of the camp, so there wasn't really anybody else there.
Okay, so it's just you guys doing it.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that was some of the. I just remember it. It really caused a lot of problems, and then I found out that there were tools that he could have used. He could have gotten a better bucket that wrung out the sponges himself. And he didn't.
Just to save money, or?
I don't know.
Know why?
I don't know why. We were not provided with the correct tools to do this without getting harmed. And I'm not kidding when I say, like, our entire hands, all of this was raw and bleeding. Backs of our hands, like, and it was just, you were just left sore. And there was, like, you were expected to resume regular life the next day after doing hard physical labor. Yes.
Were you doing school? So you do school during the day, and then at night you would do this?
Yes. Or on the weekends whenever Dad did it. I don't remember, like, exactly, because it happened so many times that we did so many different jobs. We helped put down carpet. I remember helping rip up the brand new carpet, laying down the different ones. And at the time it was like,
you're basically his employees.
Yes.
But you didn't get paid. And
No, not at all, because that had to go again. And this is where you
But you were working, how many hours were you working a week?
I have no idea.
I don't even remember.
No, I have no idea. I don't remember.
But this is beyond just like, a little family project that you help out with. This is like a regular, ongoing
This was a regular, ongoing, while he did these construction jobs for work to provide for the family. Mm-hmm. Like, we were expected to help. It's like, well, and that's why,
Yeah, again, it's borderline. Cause it's like, well, yeah.
Yes,
it's a
blurred law.
But it's like, but when it's really physical labor and you're having your daughters do this when they're...
It wouldn't have been such a problem had we been provided with the proper tools that mitigated the injuries that we sustained, because, like, that took a toll on you.
There's always been a disregard for safety in your family.
Yes. And that is where the neglect comes in. So another big thing, the other thing I remember us doing, this we did completely for free because it was for a family member. And this was me and one other sibling. I've tried to confirm, they don't remember how old we were. But I did confirm that we did a complete roof, a roofing job.
Wow.
In one weekend. Okay? From the crack of dawn, with floodlights at night, so we could still work at night, late, only getting a little bit of sleep.
Geez, so how many did you have breaks, or
no,
just to eat, or?
We had breaks to eat, but we were on top of a roof, and I do not think we had safety harnesses. You're supposed to have safety harnesses. Did not have that.
And you don't remember how old you were?
I think the age that keeps coming is I was 13, and the other sibling was like 16.
That's crazy. I remember being up on our roof painting it, but I was 20 or 19 or 20.
We ripped all the shingles off.
And that was voluntary. Like, I chose to do that. So.
No, this is, hey, they need this done. We're going and we're going to do this for free. Completely free. So, and we did it all in one weekend. We removed all of the shingles, all of that, going up and down ladders, carrying shingles, back up to Dad. We put the tarps down, and then we had the correct, put all the junk in the trailer. Still remember driving off with all the garbage because we were going to take care of that ourselves. And then, and it wasn't a super big house. Okay. The roof was basically like this. So it wasn't too steep, but it was just like this is like a rectangle roof that kind of went up like this. But we did the whole thing from start to finish, completed the roof in one weekend.
And he worked at night with floodlights. Jeez. Doesn't seem very safe.
Yeah, and we distinctly remember this because we were healthy eaters, but we got donuts, and we also spent the night at someone else's house, which that was never allowed. Yeah, I just remember, like, that's tough. That's backbreaking. And
yeah, I don't think I ever did anything like that.
All in one weekend. And then we were expected to go back to school when we got home on Monday. With no regard for, hey, you might need to rest. Nope. You go to sleep, you wake up, you do. So there was that. And then I would say, let's see. At one point, I know I was climbing up and down scaffolding in the rain. Okay, so I almost fell. I remember this distinctly. We were remodeling putting in the windows. So this was in, I think, 2010. I think it was 14 or 15. We were, that window that's in the front, the upstairs window, we were putting that in. So we had to cut a hole to put a window there. Wow. So it was a whole job. And I was helping Dad. And again, there was no safety equipment whatsoever. None at all. So you can die if you fall from that height. Mm-hmm. Second story scaffolding.
Especially at what age were you?
I need you to get up and down. I was 15. 14 or 15. 14. I was 14 at the time. So yeah, and then the biggest project of all, and this was a regular occurrence every fall, was doing wood. The
infamous wood that all your siblings still talk about to this day.
Hated doing wood. And the reason we had to do wood was because we had a wood-burning stove.
So what is doing wood?
So doing wood looks like going and finding downed or felling trees that are close to dying or
So you actually had to chop down trees?
Yes, we felled trees, yeah. Clear the way, it's going that way.
Timber!
Yes, literally. Get out, make sure everyone's out of the way, the tree's falling that way. And then there was the use of a chainsaw. We would have a huge trailer, we'd go to, I think we went to different, honestly, Dad would scout. He would go look for trees along the road, anything free.
So wait, public lands or private lands?
Yes, yes.
Like which one?
Both.
So like other people's property?
Well, if it was someone else's property, he would ask, and other people would say, hey, we've got some fallen logs that you can have. Okay. So you'd kind of put the word out like, hey, I'm looking for downed logs to get free firewood. Because you can buy firewood that's already chopped down.
Yeah. Yep.
But that costs money, and that was not, and we did technically have a furnace, but that was too expensive.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we ran it for a little bit.
Not to mention all the health risks.
The health hazards of having a wood stove? Yeah, it actually leads to a lot of respiratory illnesses, which we dealt with all the time. Why your family oh my gosh.
Your family had diseases I'd never heard of before, like croup.
And it's very common in all the little kids. We almost died. One of the kids seriously almost died.
Because you're basically inhaling like heavy metals and stuff that's burned.
Yes. In the smoke, they have shown that, and this is why poor people are more often more sickly than your average population.
Well, people that use wood-burning stoves, which are people that I guess, can't afford heating.
Yeah, I don't know what the balance was with getting, I guess it was cheaper getting the gas money spending the gas money to go do that, because then you still had to have gasoline to power the chainsaw, and then also the
means all the time too. You could be spending that time doing something else.
It took weekends. It was several months.
You could be doing something
prepping.
else to earn that money. You could get a part-time job or something.
Nope. It was weird. This is how we're going to do it. If it was you could do it yourself, you did it. You might as well do it. It's probably cheaper if you do it yourself.
A lot of times doing it yourself is not actually cheaper.
No, it's not. It's not. It's really not. Because you're still spending your time.
That's how you stay broke.
Well, yeah, and they did. So we would go and Dad would chop up the wood. I can't remember. I don't think we'd load up the log splitter because we had like a 35-ton. I have a picture of it somewhere.
35-ton.
That's how much pressure it could apply. That's not how heavy it was, but that's how much pressure it could apply to cut.
You guys were like the Baudelaire children in the 4th Series of Unfortunate Events book where they're forced to work at Lucky Smell's lumber mill. And Count Olaf is trying to chop them up or something in the lumber mill. And that actually happened to one of your siblings.
The chopping up part, or
yeah, not their whole self. Part of their body got chopped up.
I was gonna say there's also one of them went to help work at a lumber mill too.
Oh, jeez.
A legit lumber mill.
It's literally a series of unfortunate events. That's supposed to be a humorous book.
I know. That's why I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is listening to my childhood, man.
I remember reading those books like, this is so ridiculous. Like, who would make children work at a lumber mill? Like, that's not realistic. No one does that.
I don't know their level of involvement, but they were there helping to some extent. I don't know how old they were. I think it was a boy. I don't remember.
Well, at least it was a boy.
But I remember being at the lumber mill. I remember seeing it. I remember watching the.
Anyway, back to the log splitter.
So yeah, back to the wood. So we would have to load up. We would chop. Dad would chop up the stumps into manageable sizes, which he determined. Okay, so that could mean I'm talking giant stumps. Okay.
You have to carry those like yourself.
You get another person to help you.
And you put them
roll it
into a trailer.
And then we had a board that we would put down so we could roll it up to the trailer and put on to the trailer to store. And then we would stack it up.
Egyptians apparently built the pyramids.
Pretty much. It was we had a system. He had a system to be able to make it work. And he always talked about having an assembly line because things go faster if you have an assembly line. So he's very good about streamlining, but at the same time, it wasn't the best working conditions again. And I still remember the most traumatizing experience was when he decided he spotted this from the road. We were on our way back and he was like, ooh, I see a lot of wood in this ravine. Okay. It's a legit ravine. Okay. Huge.
Really steep.
Huge. Yes. Very steep. Huge stumps. Okay. We're expected to roll these uphill. Okay?
Oh, man.
Up this steep hill. Okay. And he said 2 per person. Now, here's the thing.
I mean, 2 per log.
2 per log. 2 per log. But he called them log. They were stumps. Okay. I'm not kidding. This big around, this fat. Okay. This wide. Okay. Super heavy. If one of those had rolled away, could have taken out a little kid, and there were little kids there.
Oh, geez. Like, how little?
4, 5, 6.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know about 4. Maybe not 4, because if you weren't useful, maybe at least 5 or 6. If you're 6 years old, you're expected to help. And I just remember
can't imagine making our 6-year-old do that.
Terrified that one of these logs was going to get loose and crush someone down the hill, because that was legitimately what could happen. Meanwhile,
Swiss Family Robinson rolling the logs down the hill to crush the pirates.
Essentially, yeah. So
put that clip in.
This is back-breaking, unsafe labor. Okay, very unsafe. We were all at risk here, and it was just, Dad's still chopping down. He's just.
She's not really keeping a close eye on you.
No. Oh, heck no. No, that was the older person. There was someone else like, hey, keep an eye. Everybody just kind of understood. You kind of just keep an eye on everybody. And some people were less attentive than others, which is why I was like freaked out because some kids were just left to themselves. And I'm like, someone's going to end up dead. Like, that's what's going to happen. Someone's going to end up dead.
You had that fear at the time.
Oh, yeah. I remember watching a younger sibling, like, trying to roll them up. And I'm like, you're going to end up crushed. Like, you're just going to end up dead.
But no one got seriously hurt, at least?
Not on that trip. There was always this, my finger got smashed, or you dropped a log on your foot. I mean, there were still injuries that happened. I think I sprained my ankle at one point. And it's hard to know, to be honest. Because if you got injured, shrug it off, you're fine.
Right. They never
did
anything for it.
No, unless it was a serious thing, you weren't taken to the hospital. Like, seriously. I pulled my arm out of the socket. It didn't come out all the way, but enough to cause some tearing and some serious injury to the point where I wasn't able to use it properly for 6 months afterward. Wow. 6 months to a year. Like, I had a lot of pain, but I never went to the hospital for it because, and that was a sledding accident. That was during having fun. And then I had a piano competition the next day, an audition, and I failed because I was in too much pain. But I still had to play because we paid for it, so couldn't back out. So I didn't make it the first year.
So his money was more important than their children.
Appearances. We had to. My parents were scared of my piano teacher. Legitimately, they were terrified of her. So anyway, that was doing the wood, and again, this is stuff that happened on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, every year it's like, it's time to start doing wood.
Every year,
and everyone would.
Okay, imagine the kind of labor, the kind of toll that takes on your system. At most, we would go home, and then we'd have to unload if there was still daylight. I mean, we did this in the dark too.
Jeez.
Floodlights.
It's like all day long.
Oh, yeah. Get up and you be outside at this certain time. And
that's like,
if you claimed you were sick.
12, 16-hour days.
And there was often the promise of, hey, we'll get ice cream on the way back. So there was some incentive, or we'll watch a movie when we get home. Of course, we were all dead by the time we got home.
I do wonder how much that all adds up to. The driving, the gas, the ice cream.
I don't know. I really don't know. But there was no, even if you claimed you were sick, you were not believed. You're faking it so you can get out of it. So unless you could seriously prove that you were actually sick, if you had some proof, like the biggest ones, obviously the fever.
So what time of year are you doing this? October?
Yeah, it would usually start in September.
September?
We would do it through September, October, November. Basically, we would try to get in before the first snow. Yes, on weekends, because that's when Dad would have available from working. So, and then there was always the expectation, well, when we get the wood, you guys need to fill up the woodshed, so split the wood while I'm not there and stock up the woodshed, because he built a shed specifically for all the wood. So we could store it, keep it dry.
These giant logs and stumps that need to be split into smaller pieces to fit into the wood burning stove.
Yes. So there was collecting the wood, then there was chopping up the wood, then stacking the wood and storing it. So it was a whole, there was many, many, many days, many hours, many back-breaking hours. And that's...
I see why you hated the fall.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely hated it because we're like, ugh, I have to go do this. And sometimes we would try to do it before the snow hit, but that wasn't always a possibility. So sometimes we were doing this in the snow.
Wow.
Freezing cold. It was just sometimes we were like, oh, we're going to run out of wood. We need to go get more. Got to go find. And it's like, if we did this on a Saturday, you were expected to be up and in the van by 9 o'clock the next morning to go to church. No resting. No.
Because if you don't go to church,
if you were mildly sick, just don't hug anybody. Don't touch any of the babies. You're still going to church. Very rarely did we all stay home if we were all sick, or some of us would go to church, still go to church. Half of the family would still go to church if they were healthy. The other half would stay home. Never mind the fact that they're probably spreading germs, but who cares? And that wasn't just my family either.
Because you're a bad Christian if you're not going to church.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think is something that a lot of people can relate to. So one sibling did get their finger almost completely severed off by using the log splitter. They ended up with 17 stitches in their finger alone.
And your dad wasn't around when this happened, right?
No, there was another father who was supposed to be overseeing. There was another family helping us. Dad was not there. Not present.
I guess there wasn't any safety equipment or anything.
No.
And how old was this sibling when so they're using the log splitter and
they were a teenager.
They chopped their finger?
They were a teenager.
It's also much more recent. Hand injuries.
Then there was I was going to include the one sibling cut their hand so severely it required surgery. Like it cut through and it was because, and they detailed They
tell a story at the funeral.
They told a story at the funeral of what exactly happened and how he failed to use safety equipment.
There's safety equipment right there.
It was right there.
And your dad was?
So there we were, at a table saw, cutting wood, and Dad being Dad, there was no safety guard and no precautions to keep whoever was cutting safe. That's Dad for you. And there's supposed to be a wall on the side of it that you slide the wood through. And of course, Dad being Terry Long, that wasn't there. So about halfway through the next piece, I heard the blade, I turned around, and I heard the blade make a weird, I won't go into the details of the sound, but I turned around and I saw him, he stumbled in the woodshed, and he's holding his hand. Of course, there's blood flying off of it. 9-year-old me naturally screamed, "Dad!" Obviously, he needed stitches and surgery, as he had cut 10 tendons and 10 nerves in all 5 of his fingers. And if you've never experienced that, it hurts. Because he did the exact same accident with me 5 years later on my right hand. No guard, obviously. But we needed to go. Oh, and he broke his pinky too on his left hand. The exact same accident I had with the exact same saw and the exact same blade. What a coincidence.
And he did this even at our house. Like he just.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
It stressed me out to no end. He just left.
Right, because he stayed at our house he had 3 separate trips where he stayed at our house within the last couple of years, and he stayed over like 2 weeks at a time each time. Yeah, but like one time he bought
a saw that cuts metal,
which we didn't want him to buy, but he bought it against our wishes.
He was trying to do a nice thing, but in the process, he left this saw on the grass while the little kids, our little kids, are running around barefoot. Okay, any one of them could have stepped on that. And then we were trying to put the screens back together, and I'm using a very sharp blade and ended up with a really bad injury in my thumb. Cut myself really wide open, which we're not happy about. Like, why are we doing this? Should have just paid someone because we didn't even do it right. So
no, it lasted like a couple of days and then it stopped working. So it's like, what was the point of that?
No. Again, he was trying to do a nice thing, but oftentimes he would use he liked to MacGyver things.
Yeah,
which that's okay for a few things, but not everything. Not everything.
Yeah, a lot of times it made things worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. So there was just...
shortcuts, taking shortcuts.
Taking shortcuts, not using safety. It all took a toll. It all took a toll. I mean, like every single one of us has back problems, has shoulder, neck issues. And like when I was reliving the pain, like I recorded a video of myself, which we can put in here somewhere, of describing what I was feeling in the moment from just a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, okay, I didn't expect this one. And it was weird because I did feel the searing pain that I felt when I injured my shoulder.
Wow.
Like, I was like, I cannot use my arm.
So, again, that's part of trauma is a lot of times you'll actually relive it. It's not just like, oh, I remember that. No, your body, you actually experience it in the present time.
Yeah, so my body I was in so much pain for days. I could barely breathe. My back hurt so bad. And, like, I was having trouble sleeping, and it was awful. And I was like, what the heck do I need? And I just got the sense that I just needed to rest. because that's what I had been denied all those years, was just rest. Because another thing that happens is when you're also in a traumatized environment, and this is consistent, like when you're consistently traumatized repeatedly over and over, the abuse continues on and on and on and on and on, your body never relaxes. There's no chance for that because you're constantly waiting for the next beating. You're constantly waiting for the next verbal assault. You're always tense. So, like,
forced to go somewhere against your will.
Yes. I mean, we were busy all the time. Like, there was no regard for, okay, like, we've taken little kids places, okay, and they can get really crabby and they need to rest the next day. No, we would go to 2, 3, 4 places in a weekend. Events lined up.
Right.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter how old you were. It didn't matter that you had little kids. There was no regard. There was no sympathy, no compassion for the little kids. Now, a lot of times, the ones who would get in the way and weren't helpful with the jobs would stay home. And again, if you managed to be sick. But then everyone thought you were lying, accused you of lying, and then was also, like, bitter at you and resentful that you got to get out of work. Even if you were actually sick. Like the time I had Lyme and was physically unable to do anything. Everyone was not happy with me. I'm like, sorry. I can't do anything about it. So the other thing I did was, and we all kind of worked for the same woman. You mentioned Chris the Weaver. The work that I did was she would get these giant boxes of sock loops. Okay, so they were
So
basically...
what's a sock loop?
So a sock loop was socks that were cut like this. So you had a loop. They were just called sock loops because she believed in, reusing things. So, but
They were kind of hippie-ish.
yeah, hippie-ish. And you helped me do one of these boxes. So you know this experience. You know I'm not exaggerating when I say it was like 30, 40-pound box.
Yeah, it's a huge box.
I got paid by the pound of what I finished, completed.
So your job was to what? Like remove lint from the sock?
So
loops or
remove
something?
the lint and the elastic part, because when you have a sock, it's going to be elastic. So that and all the lint was mixed in with the loops because it came from a factory. So it was chopped up in a factory, boxed up, and sent to her. And so she would take those and then make kits. Like little weaving kits.
So you can make what, like rugs out of them, or
rugs or little pot holders, or just on like a hand loom or something like that. And it was. She suggested that I put them in the dryer, but that was not an option for me because we were limited on how many times we were supposed to use the dryer. Because again, it wasted electricity.
Are we going to talk about the toilet situation? You guys weren't allowed to flush the toilet?
We can talk about that when I wrap this up.
And there
So,
okay.
we can cover that. So there was a lot of unfair labor practices. And she would only limit me to like 1 to 2 boxes a week. Because she asked me, and I didn't understand this at the time until I recently looked this up. She asked me like how long it took me to complete a box. So she would only let me do 1 to 2 boxes a week because that's how long she could allow me to work for her without crossing the boundary.
Did it take you?
It took me about 20 to 24 hours to finish 1 box.
How much did you get paid for 1 box?
On average, well, it depended on the weight of the box, but usually on average it was around $35 to $40 some dollars.
So yeah, you're getting paid like $1.50 to $2.
Yes.
An hour.
But it was, my parents were fine with it. They didn't have a problem with it.
Right, because you stayed at home.
Yes, I stayed at home.
I would never be okay with my children doing a job where they only get paid $1.50 to $2 an hour.
And honestly, I did like it because I got to zone out.
And I called this out. How early was this? This is before we were engaged.
Oh, yeah.
When I was staying with your family, I found this out. And I'm like, you're being exploited. You shouldn't be working for this lady. She's bad.
She was still...
She's using you.
She technically didn't break the law.
I don't think your dad was around, but your mom was around. And I said, you shouldn't have your children be doing this. And I always got laughed at. No one took me seriously.
No. because
and you guys
we didn't value ourselves.
And you guys did it because you didn't have any other ways of making money because you weren't allowed.
Oh, yeah.
Or you didn't have transportation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I mentioned,
So some money was better than nothing.
Yes. And this was a job that they approved of because she only lived 10 minutes away.
And like you said, you could zone out and hide, kind of not get subjected
I could
to
zone out
any of
and
the
listen
abuse.
to audiobooks, and it was great for me. I enjoyed it. I got to be secluded in my room. I had a whole spot in my room, and
but you also had some.
I ended up with lint up my nose and my lungs and like horrible back problems.
Right, because
severe back problems
doing that
because
tedious,
of repetitive
work.
I was sitting on the floor, doing it. Yeah, it wasn't
for hours.
And to be fair, Chris did try to get me to like space it out. She was trying to get me, but again, because that was not what I had modeled to me.
If I found out I'm paying someone $1.50 to $2 an hour to do a job, I would feel horrible, and I'd have to pay them more.
Her solution was to try to get me to use the dryer. Like, just let the dryer sort out the lint. I'm like, that's not an option for me because we get yelled at if we run the dryer too much. If we leave clothes in the washer if you have to wash your clothes a second time, you leave it in, it gets a little mildewy. Oh my gosh, you got yelled at. Don't do that. You're wasting electricity. You're wasting water.
Did you ever hire anyone else to this job besides your family members?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
I think she knew what she was doing.
I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like maybe she had one other person who did. I think there was. But again, they were doing it casually. This was the reason I started doing this was because I needed cash like now because I had broken the screen on my little computer that I had bought with my graduation money, and it was the only way I had to write on my own, have something to myself.
Because you liked writing novels.
I loved writing novels, and that was what I was going to do with my life, was publish books. And so let's see. So I'd broken my screen, and I needed to buy a replacement, but the only way I could get cash was if I did this job. That was it. I had to scrape together money. Different times I had like a baking business where I baked goods and sold them. I had Dad take them to his work. But even then, I was selling them at a very cheap price because the guys I had worked would complain if I raised the price.
So probably weren't really making much after you factor in the cost of ingredients.
No, I wasn't even keeping track sufficiently because no one showed me how. I didn't know what I was doing. But at one point I was going to start selling. I was going to go work in a commercial kitchen. I was supposed to have worked in a commercial kitchen so I could sell to other bakeries around and make more money.
Wow.
Because I was making actual pies, whole pies that I sold for $7.50. You bake a homemade pie from scratch, you can sell that thing for $10 to $15. But the guys wouldn't pay for that. So I had to. Again, my parents were okay with me devaluing.
Where's your dad allowing you to exploit it? I'd be like, no, this is my daughter. Like, you pay her what she's worth. She makes really good pies. If you don't want to pay her that, fine, no pie for you. Right? Like, again, right? By itself, it's like whatever. But factoring in everything else we shared, it just shows your parents didn't really love you.
Right. And like, again, I said, again, it goes back to the not valuing. Having no value, placing no value. If you don't value yourself, how are you going to value something that's a product of yourself? I mean, some people do it. Granted, some people do manage. They're like, oh, well, yeah, I don't value myself, but I value my kid. Like, some people manage to do that. But if you're that entrenched and that damaged, I think the masochism is what led him to allow us to be treated that way. What about
your mom? How'd she allow you to be treated that way?
Because she hated herself too. She didn't. I mean, they both hated themselves. They had. Because there's no way that you allow yourself to be treated that way, and value your own self. I mean, the Bible says, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself." If you don't love yourself, you're not going to love your neighbor very well. It's just you're not. Sadly. So yeah, I guess this can go into not valuing the hygienic needs.
What, the toilet?
Yeah, the toilet, because I don't know where else to put that. The toilet really bothers you. So when we had the new septic system in, we were told that in order to not have to clean out your septic system as frequently as necessary. Okay,
Tell me more about the septic system.
It was evaluated by a professional. Okay, an inspector had to come look at it, and he was surprised. He was like, "You could have like 4 or 5 bathrooms connected to this system, and it would handle it just fine." We only had 1. And we had 2.
Right, because you're supposed
not
to
just
get
1 tank.
You're supposed to get your
2
septic system
giant. I mean, these are giant septic tanks that hold a lot of bleep.
Right. So, but in general, right, you're supposed to have it pumped by a company every what, like 4 to 5 years or something.
Yeah, cleaned out.
Depending on how much
use.
Yeah.
But ours had an 8-finger system. They said it was big enough to support a small hotel.
Wow.
That's how serious this septic system was, okay? It was a very large septic system. It was very elaborate. We rented a backhoe for an entire week.
Which is not even that expensive to have it pumped. We did that when we moved into this house.
Again, money was more important than the children. It really was. We always knew that. That wasn't even like... You ask any of my siblings and they'll say, yeah, they valued money more than us. They valued their stuff more than us. Like we were always getting yelled at, for breaking something or, something falling apart. It's like, maybe it's because this wasn't great to begin with.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not my fault it fell apart. So to save on some money and to make the septic system last longer, we were not allowed to throw our toilet paper, used toilet paper, whether pee or poop, in the toilet. Okay?
We had
a trash can.
Covered toilet paper sitting out in the trash can.
Open in the trash can. Right next. Everything went in there. You could touch it. Anybody could touch it. And the person who had to clean the bathroom had to pick up the stuff that spilled on the floor. I had the bathroom job at one point.
Where did you get this idea from?
I believe it was handed off by Michael Johnson. I could be wrong, but I do remember that policy being put in place in their home as well.
It was totally unnecessary.
It wasn't necessary, I don't think, because we were using septic-safe toilet paper. Okay, it's not like we were using... We bought the cheapest stuff we could get.
Surprised no one got E. coli or anything.
We had a ton of stomach bugs.
Also, the bathroom is right off the kitchen. I don't know if that mattered at all. The bathroom is connected to the kitchen.
Yeah, and then through there was the back bedroom. And that's where the boys were, and we weren't supposed to lock that door because then whoever was in there got stuck in there and they didn't like that and blah, 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 whatever. So
Which led to molestation down the line.
Yeah. So it wasn't sanitary, and it was just really gross. It was just very gross. But yeah, we were sick a lot. We were sick a lot. I remember thinking I get sick basically every 2 weeks in the winter.
So yeah, I mean, you had the house, the roof was completely covered in mold.
Yes, it was covered in green mold. We found this in 2017. So again, that was another roofing job that we were a part of. And this was right before I got married. So I was like,
at least you're
oh
older,
my gosh, thank goodness.
That
time they had adult men helping us that time. And because they had adult men helping in other families, there were safety harnesses used then. But it didn't matter if you'd gotten sleep the night before, you were expected to be on the roof at 7 a.m.
Wasn't somebody
and
falling
someone
asleep?
almost fell off because they were falling asleep because they'd only gotten 3 hours of sleep. But that didn't matter. You were expected to show up and do the job. Doesn't matter that you're, what?
That's when we were engaged.
17, 18 years old at the time? Maybe 19? I don't remember how old they were at the time.
But yeah, you got the roof. Yeah, it was complete.
So we had to redo the roof.
Complete carpet of green.
It was the first time this roof had been actually like everything taken off and a new roof put on. Because when we got to because you can have, this is where I learned, you can have 3 layers of roof on your roof. All right. You can get away without replacing the roof underneath for so many years. But when we got to the bottom layer, it was wood. Okay, wood slats. Old wood slats that just disintegrated the second you touched them.
Wow.
Underneath that was solid green mold. I cannot find the picture. I know a picture exists. You remember seeing it.
Yeah, I saw that, but you can't find it on
It's
Facebook.
not on Facebook. Boy, they don't put it there. And I'm like, no wonder we've all been sick. We've been living underneath a cloud of green mold, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, so you got that. You got the toilet situation. You've got the wood burning stove situation. It's like,
oh yeah, I just remember we were constantly sick.
Very unhealthy environment.
I'll probably cover all the different illnesses and how that wasn't really addressed when I get to the medical neglect, because that does fall under medical neglect. But yeah, that's yeah, I don't like using the bathroom in that house because they still do that to this day.
To this day.
That's still the thing. Just no. No. And at the time, it didn't really bother us. You don't really think about it.
Because it's normal.
Because it's normal.
You're conditioned.
Yeah, it's conditioned. And so, again, taking care of your hygiene was not, like, you've had to help me with my hygiene.
Yeah, you guys used that homemade shampoo, too, that made damaged all your hair and made your hair all fall out and stuff. Because homemade.
And cheap.
Saving money.
You're saving money. You're doing really well. Yeah, it was a way of, it was worshiping money. That's what it is. We worshipped money. Thankfully, though, I did end up, because after praying, when I was reliving all of the pain, horrible pain, man, that was not fun. I did pray for healing and was healed of all of that. So I don't feel the effects of all of that anymore, thankfully.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, it lasted for a couple of days, and I was like, what the heck? And I was like, oh, I need to include this because this is an important part. This is important. This is trauma in and of itself when you unfairly, you expect your daughters, because that was the thing. We were treated like boys. We were very much treated like boys. We were expected to be manly. We were expected to be masculine. It was like masculine traits were more highly prized than feminine ones. And the girls actually had way more responsibilities than the boys did. And oh my gosh, it resulted in so many fights.
Right, because you had to do the women's work and the men's work.
Yeah, because Dad was like, well, the boys have to work outside, so they shouldn't be expected to do chores inside the house. And we're like, but we're expected to do both. Mm-hmm. We're expected to clean out chicken disgustingness, chicken poop. And that was the other thing I didn't even mention because I wasn't sure if it was important, but I was in charge of the chickens for like 7 years. And they built the coop. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was 9. Okay, 9 years old. Okay, I'm responsible for keeping a flock of chickens alive. I don't know anything about chickens. My parents didn't know anything about chickens because they got mad at me when the chickens didn't lay. Never mind the fact that they foolishly built the chicken coop on the north side of the barn. Okay, you know what makes chickens lay? Sunlight. They didn't get sunlight all day long. They only got it for a few hours at a time. They would go sit in the sun for as long as they could, and then because the barn was so tall, it cast a huge shadow over the back.
It's a big barn.
And they didn't get much sunlight. So then they're like, hey, make the chickens lay. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So we heard that putting cayenne pepper in their food would make them lay. Seemed to work some of the time. But then I was also responsible for cleaning out the coop, and it was not made with materials that you're supposed to use for chicken coops. Okay, the material that was used were metal pieces of, it was foam, technically it was insulation, so there's metal, foam in between, and another piece of metal. Okay. And then that was nailed down to the floor. And then I was expected to scrape and clean the poop out, and it just wasn't good. It was frustrating. It resulted in a lot of fights. And there was an expectation of perfection, especially if we had a party and people were coming over. Oh, you got to clean that out to make sure that no one, sees how disgusting this really is and what this results in. Like, that was always the thing. It was like there was always a massive amount of cleaning or taking, cleaning stuff up. If people were going to be around, it's like, I have to make it look like it's nice around here. And
which I'm sure everyone does. But
yeah, I mean, we do that too. But at the same time, it was like, it was okay if the animals weren't in the best living conditions unless someone else was going to see it.
So basically, it wasn't just about cleaning up. It was like covering up the bad living conditions for people and animals alike.
Yes, because the animals didn't get much better treatment than we did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of animal abuse.
There was a lot of animal abuse. So much. So much. So anyway, wrapping up, I want to be clear. I'm all for hard work. But at the very least, make sure it's not resulting in injuries because of safety, or safety not being a priority, or expecting children to perform jobs that children were not meant to perform. Okay, Stop making
There's
your
a reason
children.
we have child labor laws. It's like if it wasn't your dad and you guys were doing this work for a company, they would be in serious trouble.
They'd be in serious trouble. Oh, for sure. That's why the line is blurred when it comes to parents, and especially they said that it's even more blurred when it's on a farm, which.
So maybe if they were loving parents, you could overlook it, but you factor in everything else and they weren't loving parents.
The biggest thing was safety was never implemented. There was always, there's a risk that they took risks where they should never have taken risks.
Who cares? We'll just make more.
I didn't include working in the garden because obviously you need food for winter. That was helpful. I'm not including that. I'm just including things that were physical and that was stuff that wasn't I don't think was right. I don't think it was fair or right that we were expected to do these jobs when we were little, when we were young, still forming and not given the best conditions or sympathy or compassion when injuries resulted. The grouting. I hated grouting. Because I ended up with bloody hands. So that was not fun. Actually, that's a common thing in families around us. So
in the IBLP community?
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like farm your children out. And it was under the guise of working, we're servants, we're going to help people. But if it made you look good, that's even better. Way better.
Yeah, if you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes we release in this series, as well as more training we're coming out with on how to heal from trauma, then be sure to join our email list. It's completely free. There's a link below, or you can go to AndromedaCoastMusic.com/email, and then you can keep up to date with everything we're doing. And we also release music, so we'll also update you with what's going on with our music. With that, what's coming up in the next episode?
The public persona. And all that entailed. Singing ministry, the blogs. I kind of covered the blogs, but all the different ways we...
Basically, all this was going on behind the scenes. What was actually
what was being publicly displayed so that prevented people from being able to see the abuse going on behind closed doors.